Hi, Kate.
Gwen, good morning.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever anyone might be in the world. Here we are in Women's History Month, and we have a guest or two we might have to round out the rest of the month. But today, Kate and I just wanted to have a casual conversation about the month. And I honestly have this framed quote that I received from a colleague and really good friend now, years and years ago. And it says, "Well-behaved women rarely make history," by Laurel Thatcher Ulrich. And I keep this. And honestly, it's a little bit why we created Instigating Women and Friends. Knowing that sometimes it's not behaving well, it's not about saying the right thing, it's not about fitting in that makes history. And yet, as I look at the word history, it's his story. Um, and as I describe this, my goal in creating Instigating Women and Friends and to offer these videos and to coach isn't to create a history about myself. But it is to ensure that we're all thinking about what legacy are we trying to leave behind to make things better? Or, what do we want to be known for or known as? And I do think it's especially important for women to ask themselves these things because so much of history is about his story, men. And many times I don't know that the women's stories, the her stories, have even been told. So I'll just like to kick off that as a thought starter or thought provoker for you and see where we go with it.
Sure. So I have some her story with that quote. Um, my in high school, that was printed on my graduation announcements.
Ah, nice.
It wasn't like we didn't have to. Um, it was kind of an option of like you have this like other side of the whatever the bifold that you can put whatever you want on that. And I was like, oh, this like really resonates with me. And I focused less on the history because it wasn't like I was coming out of high school like, what is my legacy going to be? Where am I going to go? What am I going to do? But more on the well-behaved part. Because I wasn't a rebel in the sense of can do drugs or drink or like I wasn't a rebel in that space, but I was a little weird. Was a little weird. I wore costumes, like full on costumes, Victorian mostly in nature to school on regular days.
Okay.
Uh, I dressed up like Cupid to deliver love grams on Valentine's days.
Okay.
I delivered presents in an elf costume and Christmas time and would regularly just do weird theater kid things. But I was in an environment with, it was so weird, super small town. You would have thought that, bullying and whatnot would be a normal part of it, but we were the weirdest little school. We would all support each other. So like there was a baseball player and a football player who would consciously come to my shows, and then I would go to their games, and like we would trade off, and they would get their
Okay.
friends and whatnot. So I was super supported. I was a mime in high school, like
Okay.
bona fide. No, you're not going to get that picture in the show notes, by the way. But I was a mime in my high school photos. I took pictures as a mime. But all that to say that I was a weird cat. And like going and making sure that I went into whatever I would do next, being authentic and true to myself and not necessarily fitting into the box.
Hmm.
I didn't have the money to fit in the box, so I wasn't gonna fit into the box, but there was something special about being able to just be weird. And so I focus on the well-behaved part. And knowing that you sometimes have to be louder, or say the thing that nobody wants to say, or ask the question that you're embarrassed to ask, or seek the knowledge that maybe everybody else knows but you don't, because bona fide someone else in that room does not know it as well. And to be brave and courageous and do those things in
Mhm.
order to further yourself for sure, but also make it okay for others to do those same things.
Yeah.
So that's what I focus on is, let's not be well behaved. Let's not be rude, but let's go out there and take up space and be ourselves, and dress up in mime if that's what makes you happy.
Yeah. I like that a lot. And as I hear you talk about it, I grew up wanting to be well behaved. I had an elementary school teacher mother who was very strict, and I thought if you were well behaved, all good things would happen, or if you worked hard, all good things would happen. And I've certainly had a great life. Um, and yet I haven't avoided all kinds of pitfalls and all kinds of clunky and sometimes kind of bad situations. Um, and I don't think I ever fit in, certainly growing up, even though I tried to be well behaved. Um, so it wasn't until I did start to find my voice and ask powerful questions and take a stand about things that weren't necessarily powerful that I finally found courage. And you'd think it'd be the opposite. You have to find courage and fit in order to be able to do those things. But I don't know, somewhere along the way, I just thought, the being the good girl all the time isn't exactly causing me to feel comfortable in my skin. So I might as well try to figure out what really wants to come out of me and be that and express it as best I can. I think that's really hard for women. Women in particular, we're mostly taught to be the good girl, to be quiet, to be small, to speak when you're spoken to, get the good grades, go find the right partner in life. Hmm.
I think so much of that has to do with safety. It has to
Yeah.
do being safe when we were little, being safe as we walk on the streets, being safe. That there's a Chinese saying that I learned when I was in tech, that tall poppies get cut. You want to be just as uniform as the rest of the poppies, because the one who gets stuck, sticks out above it, gets caught. And like that helps me to understand why people do, why people play small, or why people not even play small, because that implies that you need to be bigger than you are. You can be
Mm-hmm.
whatever that you want to be.
Yeah.
And sometimes me being small is just what I need to be. Sometimes me being restful and sleepy and taking care of myself is just what I need to be. And sometimes being energetic and going out there and doing all the things is just what I need to be. But it's the option to know I need to be, and or what I want to be, and to execute to it. And still, it's so hard when our safety is at risk, right? We get taught to be good so that our families love us and take care of us.
Hmm.
We
Yeah.
get to be good so that we're picked and chosen into the next tribe so that it's safe for us to be in there. So for people who are out there that are like, oh, this is so hard, it is hard.
Hmm.
I would offer is, and I don't know if this has happened for you, but sometimes the energy that we spend in being the persona, the good or the quiet or whatever, is so hard that when we start to say screw it, I'm gonna ask the question and hell be damned, or I'm gonna make the statement and whatever happens happens. If they fire me, I'll find another job. um that that release of energy of keeping yourself all held in can actually make it easier to be to have the energy to go on and be brave and be courageous.
Hmm. I believe that. And I, I though have been told when I started releasing and just saying, whatever, I'm going for it. I'm too much, I'm too direct, I'm just coming at it too strong, and I'm oof. So yeah, there's that too.
System wants to keep you the same.
Yeah, and how do you think about titrating it a bit so that it can be received rather than bowling people over
Yeah,
and
totally.
surprising them and seeing you one day one way and completely different the next day, and then they lose trust, who are you really? Because we knew you yesterday, and suddenly, whoa, you know, what's going on here?
Oftentimes I'll tell my coaching clients as they're changing or as they're facilitating a change within themselves that the system wants to keep you the same. It's grown comfortable in that space. And as long as we want to continue to live in that system, whether that be that family system or that job organization, we need to bring them along.
Mm-hmm.
We need to not scare them because that can be really jarring to have your significant other start to flesh out these different aspects of their personalities, start to have boundaries. Boundaries are really hard for other people to be like, wait a minute, this is different than what you used to do. Now I'm mad because like I didn't ask you to change. I didn't want you to change. And now I have to adjust to your change. So how do we bring the family or bring the organization along? Sometimes the organization is very eager to receive that new individual because we're getting feedback and that's why we want to change. And sometimes they're not, as you said, like, oh, you're too much. And there's if we want to stay in that system, we have to ensure that we're making it safe for the people that are in that system. And if we don't want to be in that system anymore, because we do want to be bold and big and again, we're not talking rude, we're talking big ideas, we're talking pushing the envelope, we're talking being creative, we're talking thinking outside of the box, which is an idiom I do not like, but whatever, we're talking about that, right?
Mm-hmm.
About being a bull in a china shop and being a jerk.
Right,
Um,
right.
this is not an excuse for mean behavior. This is a way for us to be our true selves and lean in and experiment. And sometimes we might not fit into that organization anymore, and we might need to find an organization who loves us for what we do bring to the table.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really resonate with all that. And I do think it's about being honest and upfront, giving people a heads up that I'm playing with this, or I'm experimenting with something, or I'm worried about something. I need to say that first, or I'm curious about something, say that first, rather than just start throwing out questions in a meeting or peppering people with brand new bold ideas. That's too much a change. So I do think just having that conversation throughout is important. um, I see a lot of women clients right now, though, feel like they're almost back in that junior high mean girl stage at work, and then wondering if it's perimenopause, menopause, if it's their own hormones, and then questioning their own sanity. Um, and it just brings people back to those really rough times. So in addition to introducing, yeah, I would recommend women do go get their hormones checked, go to the physician, have a physical, see what is going on or not. Maybe it's low blood sugar, maybe it's high blood sugar, maybe who knows? But I think to rinse out any question about physical inabilities in the workplace is important. And then to communicate well, and then to be clear, I'm trying to have an impact here, a very positive impact here. I'm not trying to build my ego or build my brand or, build a power base based on my role. And just having those conversations would be helpful.
Yeah, I love that idea of making sure that you're tuned up,
Hmm.
uh, and so that your perception is as clean as possible, because again, a lot of us we just walk around with our perceptions,
Hmm.
knowledge works, right? That's all we are, is our perceptions. There's very little that that is actually done with our hands, and other than we're writing the email, which is just communicating our perceptions. And so we just need to make sure that those perceptions are as unbiased and clean, and not coming from a place of low sleep or being hangry or whatnot, but really thinking about like what can I be, how can I be the best race car that I possibly can be. Almost said racehorse, which is awkward. But race car can be, as I in this stage of my life, as I'm ready to make this change.
Yeah,
So that I can be true to myself and um true to the change that I want to make.
yeah, agree. Well, International Women's Day was premised on, or their tagline was, raising up other women. And so I do want to raise up not only this quote, but a book I've been reading by Elise Loehner, Loehnen, Loehnen. And it's called On Our Best Behavior, The Seven Deadly Sins and the Price Women Pay to Be Good. So that's probably why all this is on my mind. And she goes back thousands of years in history. She goes back to theologians and their current writings and learnings about even religion and religious text and a lot of history, uncovering that a lot of what women wrote, whether religious or otherwise, was ruined or was never brought forward into the current text that we all read. And, I'd love for everybody to take a peek at that book, see what they think. It's thought provocative. And then consider, what kind of legacy do you want to leave, or what do you want to be known as? But mostly, how do you want to lift up other women? Make sure that their voices are promoted. And then finally, I'd like to thank you, Kate. I mean, I love this partnership that we have. I appreciate you connecting with me every week to do these videos to help others, and want to recognize that.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. Every week it's something I look forward to.
Yeah, likewise.
Thank you for creating the platform for us to do it.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. I hope it inspires others. And any final thoughts that you want to offer?
Okay, thank you.
We good? All right. Well, happy Women's History Month.
Absolutely. Talk soon.
Talk
Bye.
soon. Thanks. Bye-bye.